Started, we're back. I'll go ahead and call to order zoning appeals for Monday, October 25th, 2021. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the October 11th, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Poehler, second by Mr. Foster. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Any special requests or continuances? None. Seeing none, we have no findings of fact. Any old business from the floor? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business, which is docket BZA 2021-021, a use variance request for the First Baptist Church of Greenwood. All those wishing to speak on behalf or against this, please stand and raise your right hand and be sworn in by our secretary.
You swear testimony is true to the best of your knowledge.
I do. All right, Ms. Prime, we'll take podium. You'll have 15 minutes to present. We'll have 15 minutes collectively for remonstration, and there will be 5 minutes each for rebuttals. Yes, and if you are on the Zoom meeting, please mute your microphone, or if IT can mute everyone, we are getting background noise. Ms. Prime, your name and address for the record.
I thought I heard the dog barking. For the record, Eric Prime, Van Baylor Law Firm, on behalf of your petitioner, First Baptist Church of Greenwood. Everybody can see PowerPoint. Hopefully, if I'm going, is it up and down?
You can see it. It's not.
There we go. There you go.
Did we get your address? I'm sorry.
225 South Emerson, Greenwood. Here this evening on behalf of First Baptist Church of Greenwood for a variance. With me this evening is Pastor Sean Holloway, Mike Tapp, and several other members of their committee that's in charge of their building situation. And we also have a representative from Skinner and Broadbent, who's the construction manager, Coleman Osborne, is with us as well. Tonight we're here about a church that's been part of Greenwood for almost a century, over a century. All of you, I think, are familiar with the picture we're looking at here, the facility that's on Main Street, just east of Madison. That facility has, for our folks, outlived its useful lifespan. They really are engaged now in energizing their congregation, moving to a new facility at the corner of Averett and Stop 18. That ground they purchased many years ago, actually, with the idea that at some point in the future, they would need to use that to keep the congregation going. And that time is now. So they are planning to make that move. As part of that move, they realized that they really need to increase their base, their membership. And to do that, they need to get younger folks. They need to get people with families, young adults who are interested in joining the church. One of the ways that they intend to do that is to provide an academy for infant through 12 years old to be kind of a comprehensive, holistic child services that also would include a daycare component, school component, pre-K, and then before and after school care for kids that are grade school age. And the reason we're here before you tonight is simply that the school would be a permitted use, the church would be a permitted use, but the daycare component of that, the infant folks, need a variance in order for us to serve them. But as I said, that is a very important component of what we're looking for in terms of energizing our membership and looking toward the next decade and the decade after. And we think by moving to this location where we're near middle school, we're near newer developments, we're near public parks, that this is an ideal location for not only the church, but to serve as a complete Christian ministry. Right now, we do not offer daycare. We don't offer the pre-K type program, and we are not experts at that. So we have partnered with a company called Lionheart Academy, and they are going to be the provider for those services within our facility. As you can see up here on the map, this is the parcel. It's the northeast corner of Averett and Stop 18. There's just that little carve out, which is a private home. But otherwise, that parcel is the one we're going to be reviewing today. This is the proposed layout of the facility. It will be built in phases. We'll have the academy built initially, and then a new sanctuary will follow. We can use the academy building as the temporary sanctuary as we move forward with the construction progress. But as you can see, there'll be ample parking, future parking on the north and on the east will be provided for. But initially, the parking will be on the west and south of the building. There'll be a playground area on that southwest corner of the building as well. And that would be buffered, obviously, from most of the residential areas that are to the north and to the east. So what we're looking at here is just a request to allow for this variance to let them provide this entire holistic, really honestly cradle to the grave type of a facility where you come in as an infant, you have access to a Christian ministry, both as an infant, as pre-K, and then before and after school as you grow up and then continue to go there as an adult and on beyond. So as I said, we're really looking for the opportunity to provide all of these services, and the only reason we're here this evening is because of that one daycare component that otherwise would not be a permitted use for this facility. The staff has reviewed our petition and has recommended a favorable approval from your perspective. They reviewed the statutory criteria and determined that we meet the statutory criteria for the variance, but I am obligated, unfortunately, as you know, to go through those. So let me really quickly.
You want to walk through those now?
I'm going to just show you a couple renderings here real quick, and then we'll jump to those.
Okay.
This is basically what we have in mind in terms of the front facade and the front entryway for the facility. As you can see, it's got a really welcoming but modern view to it. It's a departure from what we have now, but we think that's, again, the evolution of what we're trying to do here to appeal to a broader group of folks and to certainly serve the folks that are with us as current members. Everybody have a chance to see that? All right. Now, Mr. Kennard, so we'll jump to the.
Okay. Number one, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because
The approval of the request to allow the petitioner to provide child care services at the Children's Academy will not affect public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community in any adverse way. It actually helps in most of those instances. The proposed deviation represents only a portion of the services and intended uses for the new building. There's no indication that an approval of this petition and the resulting variance would negatively impact anyone or any of the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare.
number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property involved included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because
adjacent properties are residential and school in use. We fit right in with that type of use. This is going to be an adjunct to the school uses before and after care. And then churches obviously are permitted in residential medium density anyway. So the overall use of this facility, other than that one small component of daycare, fits in exactly with what's permitted.
okay. Number three, the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property involved because
Well, as I mentioned, this parcel was purchased many years ago by the church with an idea of this being the future location for their facility. And they want to provide this whole holistic approach, and they can't do that absent the variance, right? The variance takes away a big component of what they want to do in terms of attracting younger folks. The other flip side of the coin is it's residential medium. It's 13 acres, just that. That's not big enough to do any type of residential development on a larger scale. And we really don't think estate homes would be of any marketable value in this area either. So that ground is either going to sit vacant or it needs to be the intended use of the church. So I think that peculiar use and that niche really lends itself to this church coming in and developing there and taking away that vacant ground.
Okay, and number 4, the strict application of the terms of zoning ordinance constitutes an unusual and unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought because.
Well, a little repetitive here, but the strict adherence to that variance will cause daycare exclusion. That's a practical difficulty for us because that really flies in the face of what we're trying to do in terms of attracting broader, younger demographic to help, continue this congregation into the future.
Okay. And number 5, the approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan because.
This complies with the comprehensive plan in terms of the City of Greenwood's goals and intended future use of the area as articulated in the 2012 comprehensive plan. This fits 4 square in with the type of uses that were intended for that area.
Okay. And number 6, the structure is not regulated under Indiana Code 8-21-2-3 for air navigation hazard.
Correct.
As you mentioned, the staff had no objections. They did have a couple conditions. Number 1, the use variance, if approved, would run solely with the petitioner and shall not run with the land. And number 2, development and construction on the site shall be subject to applicable city ordinances and regulations.
The client's willing to handle both of those. Obviously, they'll apply for the ordinances, and this is going to be their forever home. So not running with the land is fine.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak for this petition? We still have about 6 minutes for on behalf of the petition.
I would say the folks that are here can answer some specific questions. If the gentleman from Skinner and Broadbent can answer developmental questions, it's those things. I don't know that anybody else. Okay. If anybody else wants to speak, welcome to.
We may call them up when we have questions after we close the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak against the petition? Okay. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing then. Open it up to questions from the board. Ms. Peters?
I have none.
Mr. Fuller?
I have none.
Mr. Foster?
I have none.
Ms.
None.
King? I have none as well. So, all right.
Mr. Prime, I have one. Your map shows a house that interferes with the property, not interferes, is in the property. Does the odd shape of the property add to its problems in development other than this use?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it really difficult to lay out any kind of additional lots. It certainly makes it, even the size makes it undevelopable for a subdivision. But if you try to create separate building lots, estate kind of lots, it's just such an odd shape that it's not going to lend itself to that. It really makes it not marketable in that regard.
And I'm aware of your experience, but we're creating a record. How many years have you practiced in real estate law in Johnson County?
Well, this is my 30th year of practice. It's a little scary. And I've probably 27 of those have done real estate work.
Thank you.
Actually, I do have a question for you or Mr. Ferguson. What's the difference between, would there be a difference between daycare and preschool?
Technically, yes. I mean, if it's actually a preschool.
And preschool would be allowed,
Mhm.
correct? So you're now talking ages like 3 to 12 that would be allowed.
I have a 2-year-old granddaughter who's in pre-2, K2. I didn't know such a thing existed. She's there 3 days a week.
And Mr. Kennard, so just to follow up on that, the Lionheart Academy actually has a curriculum for the older students. I mean, they will study. I mean, it's science, math, reading, all of those things for the before-care, the aftercare, and the pre-K, all has a school component to it. So that would have passed muster, I think. It really is just that infant to pre-K level that is requiring that.
That's possible. Okay, thank you. Right, are all the notices and receipts and everything? in
Yes, we
order?
have copies of the newspaper ads and the proof mailing.
And all the affidavits and everything? are
Yeah,
also
we
in
have
order?
the certificates for the comp plan and zoning ordinance as well.
I'll take a motion, accept those in the record.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we admit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's application and attachments, petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, the staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, testimony of the petitioner, city planning staff, and any remonstration, and all other exhibits presented, be they oral or written, for consideration by this board in regard to this petition, and to include the testimony of those present this evening. Second.
Motion by Mr. Fuller, second by Mr. King. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. I will take a motion on the ballot, couple notes on the ballot as they came. You'll notice on the conditions, the second condition is kind of repeated at the bottom, and the signature line is actually on the back. I would recommend, are we okay to sign it at the bottom of the front page from a legal standpoint? I would recommend you sign the bottom and then cross off the second instance of that condition.
I did. King.
Thank you.
We'll take a motion on the ballot.
Move to approve the ballot with the conditions of the variance if approved will run solely with the petitioner, not with the land and development and construction of the site shall be subject to applicable city ordinances and regulations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Foster, second by Mrs. Peters, with the two conditions on the staff report. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion does carry 5-0. I'll take a motion to draft for the findings of fact.
Chairman, having considered the statutory criteria, I move that we direct the Corporation Counsel's Office to draft written findings of fact regarding our decision on the variance petition. A variance request presented in variance petition number BZA 2021-021. Said findings specifically incorporate the staff report and the evidence submitted into the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as a final decision and final action regarding this petition at our next meeting.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Fuller. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. You guys are welcome to proceed. We'll take final action. For the
Thank you very
staff
much.
to
Good luck,
move
everybody.
forward. Thank you. That's all. Next item we have is the public meetings by electronic means. We talked about this at the last meeting as far as drafting specific procedures for the Board of Zoning Appeals. I don't know that we're necessarily in position to draft the specific rules tonight unless each of you feel otherwise, but I know Ms. Peters has a copy of the Common Council rules, which are pretty specific and detailed. And did anyone else receive a copy of those yet?
I perused it in the email we got.
I did not
But you
see it
did
in
from
the
the
email I
council,
got.
right?
Well,
It was the council version.
council.
Yeah, I must have missed that we had it, so I apologize. I just
So
did not.
yeah, you should have gotten it with your agenda.
Okay, so I
You
missed
know,
it.
it was a hyperlink.
It was a hyperlink and I missed it. So I apologize for that. So I've not necessarily read through it other than reviewing it before the meeting here tonight. It seems like they're pretty strict as far as some of the rules. I don't know if we want to adopt all of that or what's everybody's thoughts on that.
Well, it's like in this one, it says no more 4 members may participate by electronic communication, so that's considered 9 council. So I think what Shannon was saying last time was that we had to have at least a quorum in attendance.
Which I would agree. I think that is key to what we do here. There's also
The council's a 9-member,
Right.
so
And the plan
they
commission
cannot
would be
have
under-
more than 4. So
I
PC
think
would be.
we would have to be minimum of 3 in person,
right
right?
here.
There's also, I think guidelines against how many you can be in person versus not in person. I think you have to be in person over half for the year, which I'm okay with.
That's a state statute.
That is a state. So that was the other question I had, what's not affect, okay. The other one was the ability to join remotely, but not visually. They have in theirs that you cannot be a participant, an active participant without having visual. I'm not sure how you all feel about that. I know we did that back during COVID. We were able to take participation without visual then. I'm okay continuing that myself, but
Yeah,
I think sometimes the technology is against us with requiring visual at all times in order to participate. I see no reason why we shouldn't be able to have audio only if that's.
I don't want to give someone a disincentive to participate if all they can do is do it by phone.
If you're having technical difficulty, you know.
I say you could be on the phone or something in your car and
Yes,
go into the tunnel or around a mountain and lose.
Hey,
right. Yeah,
I went
well, not that we haven't had that happen.
Yeah.
I went from Lexington to Greenwood visually and never lost a signal. That was both for this one and the plan commission. Somebody asked me, "You're not driving, are you?"
Was there anything else that we identified might or might not be applicable to us.
Will you be
Well, I
able to, will you be able to, excuse me, when you're talking about, you're gonna have someone to vote that, one of the things I think you need to consider is whether or not they'll be able to see the presentations. And I think that's why the council wanted it to be Zoom rather than
Yeah,
telephone.
since we're
call.
making an actual record, I mean, that's part of the evidence.
That is
You'd be able
true.
to see
That would be
the
a
evidence you're
challenge
looking
to audio only.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you dialed in by phone.
Right.
But what about, like the podium, let's say, just your video's not working, you could see the presentation. Although, I guess my question would be, how would you see that I'm voting for against?
Oh, yeah.
The state statute says you have to verbally.
We can verbal, which we
Yeah.
did in the past, we did verbal,
By name call.
yea or nay by name
Yeah.
call.
Last
and
meeting, Monica had to do it virtually, as she was, you could see her, and she was her.
Yeah. But now I know in their proposal or whatever they came up with, they restricted, or they made some issues with the type of petition or whatever was going on, the type of action they were taking. With us, it's generally a petition for variance, and we typically get the variance
Ahead of time.
petition itself in advance. I'm not so sure that it's necessary. We have to have the video to see any presentation, because for the most part, most of the presentations have mirrored the paper submission.
It's very rarely that we have net new
Yes,
information passed out of zoning. It does happen, but very rarely, so.
I guess I'm just not seeing that, making that as a mandate.
So would it
But
be,
now if somebody's uncomfortable because they can't see something that somebody's
My
coming up
concern
with
is
that is.
if someone were to challenge our decision to court, maybe because whatever visual images, if they were different, is part of the evidence, that part of the argument is that it wasn't even possible for us to view the evidence.
true.
Well, I guess I'm having some.
I don't know the last time we had
some
legal
concern with that, only because of the fact we have less than a quorum that would be subject to not seeing it. And generally, we have to have a quorum in order to pass it. So I guess I'm struggling with.
Would
making
it
that an
be
issue.
fair to ask that we get a rough draft
Oh,
specific to the
definitely.
Board of Zoning Appeals based off of the Common Council's and what we have discussed here tonight from a 5-member board
We can do that.
that we can then review and then have more input to at the next meeting?
Okay, and you want us to do away with the 72-hour notice? I know that was one.
I'm not so sure. We need, somebody has to give you 72
Or that they're
hours
not gonna be
notice
in
that they're
person.
not gonna be able to be in person. Sometimes you don't know until the last
I
minute.
mean, the last meeting, I was
Right.
within hours of saying, hey,
Yeah,
I'm in
I think
Atlanta,
that's
I'll
kind
call
of-
you.
Right.
I think that's kind of.
Yeah, I would
Extensive.
scratch that.
What do you want me to do with the being able to see the presentation? Remonstrators, I doubt that you ever have the presentations in advance, do they?
Correct.
If they have a presentation.
But
that is
I
correct.
but if
can't
they're
remember
getting-
seeing a Vermont State
But if
Traders.
they're getting
presentation.
online.
Yeah.
And somebody's presenting, they can see what's on
If they're visual, that's the question. Do they have to have visual? Do they have to have Zoom?
the remonstrator.
No.
No, we're talking about the
or
members.
attendee.
Right, he was asking about the remonstrator.
And the question is whether or not they should be able to vote if they haven't seen all the evidence presented.
If a remonstrator brings something you haven't had it ahead of time. I'm,
Okay, my thought before we say that, if the person, the board member who is only able to participate audibly has a concern with making a vote, nay or yay, either abstain or request a continuance to the next meeting. I mean, if it's that serious, I don't know that we've seen anything like that, but I mean, if it would result in something being that significant,
Would it be better to have that member just abstain?
that's what I'm
yeah,
thinking,
I mean, that's an option.
you know.
So why don't we draft it as it is with the council for now? Again, a rough draft,
And leaving out
and
a
then
lot
you all
of this
think-
stuff.
let's all think about that and how we might word that, or if
Mhm.
we need to require video or not. And if not, how we word it, and then we can take it and amend it to final draft.
And I assume we're on another 30-day. I don't deal with Indiana healthcare. So I don't know if you did Holcomb extend another 30, is that what?
No, this is actually for.
Well, I know this would be for after, but are we still under Holcomb's 30
Yes.
day, every 30 day?
Yeah, I believe so.
This month.
Mhm.
Well, I think Sean said it was gonna be till the end of the year.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's through.
I imagine, yeah.
Okay, are we good on that subject? Everything
Yeah.
for today? Okay, then we need to approve the BCA meeting schedule that was passed out for 2022. Does anyone have any issues with that?
Nothing jumping out
Sorry if anyone has a Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's kind of
We
unfortunate.
have to
isn't
bring
it?
in Valentine's bracelet, is that what we're doing?
So you need a couple $100.
Say that's right. So
Did I say that out loud?
All right, do we
Oh,
want to vote to approve it?
Yes.
All right, can I take a motion to approve as written? So Mr. Pollard,
Second.
second by Mr. King. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0 to adopt the meeting schedule.
You don't need to go to Valentine's Day meeting. I can make the money.
Any new business from the floor? Seeing none, any announcements?
No, we have, I think items for the next couple of agendas have been filed, so there'll be activity going into the end of the year here.
Very good.
Aye.
Okay, no more announcements, motion to adjourn.
Mhm.
Meeting is adjourned. Microphone's off. You can stop the recording.